You're listening to Shockwaves, the Stellar Shock After Show, where we break down and go deep discussing every episode. I'm Jess, and sitting across from me is Arthur, the guy who put these characters through hell and dragged us in behind them. Hey, Art.
Hey, Jess. Never thought I'd hear my book recited back to me with the word hell in the first 2 minutes.
It's what you handed us, so what else can we do? Okay, ground rules, no punches pulled. We talk through the rough, the real, and the stuff you hear in the gutter when nobody's listening. You good?
That's the only way I know.
Let's get right into it. First episode, argument and the prologue. You start us with bones, burned trees, broken ground. Then suddenly we're riding up into the sky, floating islands, rain running sideways. And right away, we're watching the build up to a siege. Why this hard cut? Why not start with the people? Give us a face or a name.
Because the place comes before the people. That dirt, bones, and ash under your boots, everybody's walking on history. All the scars, the little bits of lost gear or stripped bark. It's all there before someone walks in and tries to make their own story in it. The argument isn't about words, it's about ground. About who survives and who gets left in pieces. Once the world gets established as hungry, then you start dropping in names to see which ones stick.
That comes across real sharp. You don't do soft openers. Nature is brutal, the wind doesn't care, and even a crow gets maybe a bite before another gust. Are you saying something about hope or just setting a mood?
Hope's a luxury. Most people in this world don't get it. They get survival, if they're lucky. As for mood, I want readers on edge. No safety net, no guarantee that anyone's making it out. You want hope, it's up to the people in the story to scrape some out for themselves, never handed down by the world.
And then we flip to Cornelia, the city that floats, built on mud and cables, no pretty presentation. I noticed you barely mention the magic except when it's biting someone. Wind is a weapon or a threat, not a miracle. What's the thinking there?
People don't sit around marveling at their own tools, not unless they're new or scared. The wind magic, the canta, by now it's normal to the Cornelians. No one's grinning about flying islands. They're worried about rust, loose bolts, some old chant failing. That's how you get a world that feels lived in, nothing special about the miracles. Once you're the one shoveling coal into the belly of the sky.
And the birds, eagles, phoenixes, they're not elegant. The birds take hits, burn, bleed out in the air. The city's pride is practical, not pretty.
That's it. Animals aren't noble. They aren't just symbols of kingdoms and stories. A bird will peck out your eyes for a meal. Let's not kid ourselves. War's not a parade, even when you're riding a golden eagle.
Let's dig into the raid. We meet Kani and Roch up on the roof, painting themselves with some ugly black canta, choking on the nerves, faces lost in the dark. Why open with these two? They're not heroes. They're not smooth.
You got a slow kid from a ferret, never seen a real fight, paired with an old wreck who's done it all too long. That's real. Most soldiers aren't storybook leads. Kani's fumbling through the job because he was sent, not because he signed up to be brave. His belly's turning over, fingers itchy. Roch just wants to get it done and get out. It's routine. But that doesn't make it easy.
You make Kani irritating. He won't shut up. He's always trying to talk Roch into stalling, telling stories. He's scared.
He's terrified. And that's honest, no bluster, no clean one-liners. You act tough if you're not tough. If you are tough, you shut it and do your knots.
And you throw us right into the siege from the ground up. Phoenix riders coming in low, eagles patrolling above, soldiers moving in with silent commands. The ropes even bleed. Can you talk about how you build tension in these scenes?
Keep everything close. No big swooping shots, none of that. It's all what you see, what you hear, under boots, the snap of a rope, the way sweat cuts through black war paint. Even when you cut to the commander, Cost, or Tandros, the keeper, you stay inside the tent with the stink of blood and torch oil. Every detail's about bodies and tools, what hurts, what goes wrong. There's always something about to give, something crawling under the skin.
Let's pin down Tandros. Got no subtlety. He rips wings off a guard. He bargains in blood. He taunts Aaron instead of giving a speech about evil. Did you set out to make him a villain you could hate, or did you plan for something deeper?
There's nothing complicated about Tandros' cruelty, but where it comes from runs deep. He came up in blood, lost everything in a raid, burned young. A person like that, if they don't break, they get hard. He's not a mastermind. He grabs what he wants, uses pain, never fakes mercy. A lot of fantasy makes big speeches for villains. Real people like him just get on with doing harm.
Aaron eyes his target tonight. Scene starts with her running. Desperate. You don't give us a long intro for her. Just throw her in. And she gets grabbed hard. She tries to crawl out, and you detail every bruise, every bit of torn skin, sweat. What's your aim? Showing her pain so precisely and not letting her have a heroic moment?
Nobody's a hero when they're running from fire with their hair torn out. I want the reader to feel the cost, the ugliness of panic. Knees busted, elbows cracked, cheeks sticky with blood. If you escape, it isn't pretty. It's luck and pain, crawling half-blind toward a vent. That's survival, not heroics.
She gets pulled down. Her father, Samuel, tries old wind chants. Even his eagle goes for blood, and they get slammed down by black magic. No last stands, just overpowered and taken. I get the sense you're doubling down on realism over drama. Am I right?
Drama comes from the loss, the hopelessness, not the fantasy of clutch escapes. Real fights, most of the time, end ugly and fast. The strong win, the desperate run. Magic's just another weapon. It won't save you if you're outgunned or outnumbered.
Then you close out the prologue with Aaron dumped in a tent, bruised, with Tandros looming over her and the men in red avoiding his eyes. Nobody comforts her, and even when she wakes up, she's got nothing to say. Why strip her of words?
Because words don't come when you're beaten raw. Sometimes the defiance is not making a noise, not giving your captor a scrap to chew on. She's watching, burning, and her silence is all she's got left. That's strength in a small space. She can't bargain, can't fight, so she holds on to herself. Nothing melodramatic, just grit.
And then on the other side of the world, you give us a kid, Sir Seraphine, yanked out of his sleep by nightmares. It almost feels like you're setting a line between the suffering in the palace and suffering in the mud. What's the connection?
Terror's universal. You can be in old wood and mud or in a silken bed. Fear gets hold of you anyway. Sir's got nothing to do with the siege except bad dreams. It's the ripple. When violence throws out shockwaves, even strangers wake up sweating. I want people to feel the shiver go far, not just where it hit the hardest.
The prologue covers ground, but every step is specific. What clothes bite, what sweat covers, how old wounds ache. How much of this comes from your own experience and how much comes from research or watching people?
Both. I've done hard work, broken knuckles on stone, carried scars up ladders, slept in places that stank of rot. You remember the little hurts. The bigger ones, loss, fear, being hunted, those come from watching the people who make it through worse. Talk to enough folks who lost a job, a kid, a home, and you pick up the habit of naming the small stuff. It's never a big tragedy in the moment. It's always the gravel under your knee as you climb or the sweat in your eyes you can't wipe away because your hands are bloody.
That detail's everywhere. Even the Hugvan, the monster that carries the siegemen in, gets its canvas tent ripped up, ropes pounded into the bone, leaking mud and blood with every swing pass. No glory, no monster romance.
No such thing as a beautiful beast in war. Everything chained, everything bleeding, everything used. Even soldiers don't get their armor shiny. They're scratching it off, bleeding into the joins, scrounging everything they can to keep from going down first.
What about the crowd in the tent with Aaron, soldiers whispering, cleaning wounds, pretending not to notice her, dumped like cargo? Why not give them some kindness, some line of mercy?
Kindness isn't free. In that tent, Kindness can get you noticed, get you ripped apart next. Fear keeps people quiet, heads down. The best you get is a soldier looking busy, tightening a strap instead of meeting your eyes. That's how trauma spreads. Everybody tries not to let it in, but it seeps through anyway.
Let's talk about when you started as a writer. This kind of detail, this obsession with dirt and pain, did you always write like this? Or did you learn it over years?
I started filmy, if I'm honest. Big speeches, heavy symbolism, and none of it real. Worked a lot of jobs, wiring, industrial cleaning, cold mornings on roofs. Wrote about the way a jacket pinches when you're sweating, the stink of old oil, how blood dries in your lines. Once I got honest, cut out the flourishes, the stories breathed different. Now I can't write it any other way.
Were there writers you read who taught you to write tough?
Stephen King, sure. But Ruth Rendell, she cuts deep with almost nothing, no need for poetry, just a knife and a mark. Michael Shea, his stuff's always wet, cold, close. William Gibson, early on, he'd miss 100 descriptions just to land the one that matters. Anything written clear, no lies about suffering, I'm in.
How do you balance that, making the world dark, unforgiving, but still sharp enough for people to want to keep reading? Where's the line between too bleak and just bleak enough?
You give them a breath, let the pain land and move on. Life doesn't stringe you forever, even in the middle of a bloodbath. There's the scrape of a chair or the creak of boots. Let the violence sting, but pull back to the work. There's always work. Survivors want to get out, keep moving, find the next piece. If you wallow, it gets old. If you hide, it goes fake. Show, don't linger.
That comes through in the pacing. Even when something brutal happens, you don't spend paragraphs telling us how to feel. Something bad happens, then someone mutters or checks a strap or wipes their hands off and looks for the next thing to do. Is that how you stay away from melodrama?
That's the only way I know how to write it, honest. No one stands around breaking down. You deal with it in pieces, tighten a belt, patch a cut, keep going. It's not a failure to grieve, it's just survival. People push forward because the world doesn't stop to let them process.
Let's get into the reviews. You said you can't help but look. Any stick out, good or bad?
Every writer remembers the worst ones, word for word. Some readers said a scene was just pain for pain's sake, no beauty. That one pissed me off, so I leaned in and made the next chapter worse. Got another one saying the world felt real, like they could smell the rot and taste the ash. That's the one I reread when it's ugly and I wonder what the hell I'm doing.
Ever been surprised by what people latch onto? A line, a moment, something you thought nobody would care about?
All the time. I'll sweat 3 days over a fight, and people quote the one line where Kani wipes mud on his sleeve and tries not to throw up, or a flash where Roch grunts and gives up on explaining, and that's what sticks with folks. Usually the small stuff. The big set pieces, they're just color. It's always about the mess in the margins.
Out of all the characters, who do you walk around thinking about the most when you're not writing?
Roch, I guess. Old guys with scars, got nothing to prove and too tired to show off. There's a lot in a man who's seen bad things and still shows up. Kani's always in the back, making noise, but Roch is the one who changes the air in the room. He sees too much, but he keeps moving. Hard not to respect that.
You write pain and exhaustion into all of them. Even Erin, after that escape, isn't cleaner or purer for it. She's more broken. Did you ever worry about crossing the line, making a story too dark for readers?
I'm not aiming for shock, I just won't lie to people. If you try and pretty up trauma, you lose the truth. Readers know when you're ducking out of the real cost. There's darkness, yes, but it's not for the sake of it. It's because that's how you feel the weight of surviving. Makes any small win matter.
On writing itself, what's the best part of it for you?
When a line lands. Doesn't have to be clever. Sometimes you hit the right sentence, it's ugly, it stings, and it fits. Just a guy wrapping his knuckles in bloodied cloth, or someone saying nothing with their fist clenched. If it's true, it works and you know it. That's the best bit.
People ask about writer's block a lot. Do you freeze up ever? Or just muscle through?
Always something. Some days you sit and stare. Best thing is to keep your hands moving. Go ugly if you have to. Let Kani make a fool of himself. Throw a wrench. Have Roch spit on the ground. Fix it later. What matters is you're working. Waiting for lighting to strike is a joke. This is just another shift. Show up, clock in, get dirty.
What if you weren't writing? What would you do, you think?
Trouble my neighbors at some welding shop, probably. Work with my hands. Build or break something that doesn't talk back. Sometimes wish I could have kept to that, but the stories kept gnawing at me. When writing's not happening, I rig things, fix engines, patch walls. Keeps the head quiet.
With a story like this, loads of new readers come in hoping for hope or redemption. You're clear in the prologue that nothing's safe, no happy endings on a plate. Is there any light in this world for you, or do you just let everyone sink?
Nobody gets a guarantee. Some will drag themselves out, some will break. You get small things, a hand on a shoulder, a laugh when it's over, a breath you didn't think you'd earn. That's real hope. Not the big rescue, just the next day. I don't sink everybody, but no one floats without a fight.
Before we wrap, get a lot of questions from listeners about violence in your story. Why so much? Why so graphic?
Violence isn't entertainment for me. I write it because it's always there, political, personal, whatever. You don't have to like it, but pretending it isn't real is worse than facing it. If something hurts, I want you to know why, not just feel the splash. Most of the time, survival is ugly, and everything earned twitches with pain.
Pulling away from dark stuff a second. Any books or stories that reinflate you after all this? Something that keeps you from burning out?
Sometimes I go back to short stories, Jackson, Carver, even old detective digests. Short, mean, nothing wasted. Reminds me you don't need 1,000 pages to leave a scar. If it gets too bleak, I pick up something so practical it gets funny. Manuals, repair guides, things where no one dies if you mess up. Keeps the balance.
What's the most surprising thing you've learned about your own writing style doing Stellar Shock?
How fast you lose control. Thought I'd stick to one path, but every scene that feels honest throws off plans. Had a dozen endings mapped out, half the cast ignored them. If you do the job right, the thing you build isn't always what you set out for.
If you could go back and give yourself advice starting out, what would you say?
Don't hold on to any lines too tight. Kill pages, kill chapters, lose your favorite paragraphs if they slack. Stay out of your own way. Someone smarter told me cut, cut, cut till nothing useless is left. I'd say listen sooner.
Let's close out with a fan question. Will anything in this world get better for people like Kani? That's from Lou in Detroit.
Depends on what you call better. For some, better means breathing after the story ends. For others, it's just holding a piece of ground no one can take, maybe for a minute. There's no happy ever after here, but there's grit. Sometimes that's enough.
That's as close to sentimentality as we're getting out of you tonight, Art. Appreciate you coming on, getting into the dirt and blood with us.
Wouldn't miss it. Nothing better than talking with people who aren't afraid to get their hands messy.
Next week, we see who lives, who scrapes by, and if anyone gets to crawl out of the wreck. Keep sending your questions and keep reading. Ugly. Yeah.
It's the way. See you, Jess.
Thank you for listening to Shockwaves, the Stellar Shock Aftershow podcast. If you're enjoying the pod and wish to support us further, please consider joining our Patreon community at patreon.com/vertical. That's patreon.com/verticle. This episode of Shockwaves is a production of Vertical Media LLC, all rights reserved. Produced and edited by our talented team, the fabulous theme music was created exclusively for Shockwaves and is used with permission.